Hi, my name is Gwynette, and today I'm going to be talking to you about my review on XO. And I wouldn't be talking about this if I wasn't that interested in it, but I am. So yeah, here's my little analysis and everything I wish they would have done in XO. Because let's be so honest, XO was a bit all over the place. I genuinely actually really liked this show. I thought it was really enjoyable. It was kind of cringy, but you know, it was entertaining nonetheless. I'm definitely not one of those people who are like, oh my god, it's so good, like I wouldn't change a thing about it. There are things I would change. Let's start off with a bit of the obvious. I think the XO like main trope was following this fish out of water story, and XO was doing that with getting Kitty, who is this half Korean girl who was basically raised under the Western society. She basically just moves there just to understand her Korean culture, her Korean side, and to be able to be basically closer to her mom, which is just the entire premise of the story. Kitty's always both of these things. She's always Laura Jean's younger sister, the Matchmaker. I have a lot to say about both of these characteristics about Kitty, because these are only the two kinds of personalities Kitty shows consistently throughout the whole series. Kitty basically just wasn't learning, she wasn't adapting to her surroundings, she was just existing in it. And it kind of felt like, in that sort of perspective, Kitty was kind of expecting Korean culture to adapt to her and her needs, instead of the other way around, because realistically, Kitty faces no real struggle as she lives in Korea. She verbally says that she sometimes doesn't feel Korean, but at the same time, we see her making no effort to make that kind of distance minimal. The whole purpose of the fish out of water trope, for Kitty's case, is that we are supposed to be learning with her. And I think that because Kitty virtually learns nothing and things are like readily handed to her, it doesn't feel authentic enough. Like, it kind of feels almost out of touch because Kitty just feels like a character. She doesn't feel like a real person, especially in these first few episodes. I think that with this trope, it's really common just to see consequences, the ugly side of just being away from your family, everything you've basically known growing up, just like the aftermath of her relationships, because that's one of the biggest focuses of the story. We don't really see that because her quirky American side stands out, but not in the way that Kitty hopes to. And Kitty's Americanness is not like Olivia Rodrigo's so American, you know what I mean? The story kind of plays it out like Kitty's Americanness and her like quirkiness kind of shield her from making any real connection to who she wants to be or who she is. Kind of makes it her main personality, or the main thing that makes her so interesting. Personally, I think that Kitty just never realizes the weight of her actions because she prides herself in being pretty smart. We see this in the first few episodes, but Kitty doesn't make the smartest decisions, and most of us would play it off as like lacking maturity because Kitty's pretty young. 16, 17 years old, living abroad in Korea. I just generally believe that like lots of things are handed to Kitty. A lot of problems that revolve around Kitty, they are solved within the same episode. And it ruins that like satisfying like ending for us and for Kitty herself, because it kind of just seems like, oh yeah, something's wrong with Kitty, I have a solution for her. Kitty's gonna get expelled? Oh, let me talk to my mom. Let me tell her to let her stay at KISS. And while like I can see that she was a very good friend for that, but at the same time that kind of defeats like strength as a character, because she didn't fight for her spot. And while she didn't ask to be put back in KISS, there wasn't like a scene that shows that the reason why she should stay in KISS. I really just wanted to talk about like Kitty not really learning about her Korean heritage, and there might be some argument to this claim, because there are a lot of instances where they have a bit of Korean culture in it, like Korean culture in the show, even though it's like very lighthearted. But let's keep in mind that one of the main themes of this show is identity, and Kitty learns little to none about her identity. So I was kind of surprised that Kitty never kind of learned something, I guess, like a few like phrases or something from K-dramas or something like that. And especially since both of her Korean grandparents are like in the picture, she's mentioned them, and last time I checked, they are still alive. Yeah, I went to their house. Kitty also has a Korean boyfriend. He's fully integrated into the Korean system. So I was just thinking, like, why wouldn't Kitty like know a little bit more? Like, wouldn't they teach her a thing or two, a tradition or two? But at the same time, cultural traditions, cultural aspects of Korea that she does, they always have ulterior motives done with it, and at the same time, like, it's never out of her willingness to learn. It's because she has to do it because of something else, you know? So which is why it kind of translates that Kitty is pretty much very arrogant because of her deep-rooted Americanness. She doesn't bother to learn a lot of the aspects of Korea, and almost ignorant to the world that's happening around her. And I can see why people say that this is like a lot of naiveness to her character, but at the same time, she's been there for 4 to 5 months. she has to have learned something about the Korean culture, Korean language, something. But at the end of the season, she basically shows us nothing. She basically shows us that she's learned nothing and mostly focuses on this main plot of her love triangle. Kitty the Matchmaker is basically her boasting about her one successful story. Kitty kind of never considered the consequences of her actions. It kind of falls back onto when she was in the To All the Boys series. She sent out the letters not knowing who would return Laura Jean's feelings or how Laura Jean would react or in the end would happen to Laura Jean. She kind of just sent them out because she could. I think because after that moment in time, she never really faced consequences for it because it worked out in the end. And I think that has something to do with Kitty now, because Kitty continues to press boundaries, continues to push the limits, because she never really had consequences to deal with before, and invading people's privacy, something she never really got reprimanded for. She was never punished or disciplined for it. She was always under the guise that it was okay to mess with people, kind of just continued to do it even into her teens because no one reprimanded her. She's the youngest sibling. So I think that really helped in her getting away with a lot of more things. It kind of gets old really quickly, and it kind of just shows that this is one of the defining qualities of her character, is that she can't detach herself from the success story. And this one match is her entire personality of her being a matchmaker. I had my own thoughts about Kitty being a matchmaker to Yuri and her continued persistence. It's kind of obvious that how many times they play this off, it's not just persistence, it's her charming quality. And this charming quality isn't charming at all, it's actually really annoying. Because obviously, Yuri, who is closeted right now as of the first few into the series, she doesn't want to talk about her relationships or her anything with Kitty because Kitty to her is virtually a stranger. I don't think Kitty was just being quirky here or like being good by playing a matchmaker to this potentially new friend that she's gonna have. It's just gonna be a broad characteristic of her trying to be a matchmaker again. I think that she kind of plays this younger sister character in a way that she can't do anything wrong. Like, it was cute maybe when she was younger because she was kind of like a know-it-all all the time because she was everything Laura Jean wasn't, right? But this kind of younger sister dynamic that Kitty onto her new friends, it's getting annoying, and it kind of like feels like that's why that she's the main character. It's because that virtually compared to everyone else, she has no consequences, she can't do anything wrong. I feel like every time people stand up to Kitty and kind of like push her down on that off that like high horse she's kind of on, she constantly feels like she's being villainized, that people are out to get her. And it kind of is the aspect of why she's so unlikable in the first place, because it kind of forces pity on Kitty and how we're supposed to feel bad for her, and that her rejection is kind of amplified. And I think one of my prime examples for that is Alex claims to Kitty that, oh my god, not everyone is on Kitty time, or not everyone's on your timetable, because he wasn't ready to face Professor Lee or really tell anybody that may be Eve Song's son. And Kitty was kind of like pushing that idea, even though like at first she was very acceptable of it. She was like, oh yeah, 110% sure that that's your own kind of thing, like we don't have to confront him right now. But, you know, my sisters, they would be really excited to meet you. Who may or may not even know that Eve Song potentially had another kid and could have been a secret she could have taken to the grave. Realistically speaking, like, her sisters already have an image of their mom in their heads. Kitty basically takes that away from them because this secret is kind of huge. This is assuming that nobody knows about this secret baby. Kind of alters that image that they have of her. So not only is Kitty taking that away from Alex, taking that away from her siblings as well. And even though she kind of like feels that they would be excited for it as much as she is, but she doesn't have that kind of connection she has to her mom. The way Kitty kind of just throws Day's dead mom in his face because he basically wants him to feel hurt the same way he hurt her, and while what she feels is very valid, it kind of just shows that Kitty's feelings kind of take precedence over everyone else's feelings.
I want my necklace back. Yeah. The one I gave you when your mom died?
Yeah.
Whenever we do see someone push back because of Kitty's actions and kind of put that boundary between them and her, and we see Kitty upset, we always see like an immediate reaction, in Q especially, because when we see that kind of shift in them, it takes away from their personality to say that, oh yeah, this person is this. But you know who their soft spot is? Kitty Song Covey. We feel bad for Kitty because, oh my gosh, I didn't mean to make her cry. The equivalent to making Kitty feel bad is kind of like making a baby feel bad, if that makes any sense. Because if you take away one of their toys, they'll cry. And in Kitty's sake, take away that power she has over them, she gets upset and they feel bad because number one, Kitty relies on them to help her sort her feelings, help sort herself out.
Poopy baby.
It was basically known by everyone that Dae and Yuri were together and Kitty was ready to kiss him. And she admits to him to his face that she would have kissed him back. She already knew that they were fake dating, but like she kind of just assumed it. Even when Kitty didn't want to kiss Dae in front of Yuri after they had broken up out of respect for their relationship. I say that with quotation marks because where was this respect when it was still under the pretense that Dae and Yuri were already together? And while I think that some people make mistakes, I think Kitty kind of just like justifies herself in the strangest ways, kind of just doesn't respect their relationship as a whole until they've broken up, because that's when she truly believes that was a relationship. I think that Kitty is so persistent in introducing Alex. We realize basically has learned nothing about her mom, and I think Kitty realizes that too. This is a little more than halfway of the series itself, and Kitty virtually realizes, oh my gosh, this is like my last ditch effort. Basically the equivalent to her learning about her mom, about this like secret baby that she had, and learning about the life she had. Her desperately clinging on to the fact that Alex was her brother without any further proof. It was just her trying to justify that time well spent, that she was learning about her mom in this way. She always relies on other characters to make her feel a lot secure. We see that with Q, we see that with Madison, even at the end of the episode, because Kitty by herself, I don't think she could handle being by herself. And even character-wise, Kitty isn't interesting enough to be by herself. Madison is a character that she kind of just talked to once or twice throughout the entire season, but still kind of relies on her to support her. Kitty kind of just abuses her power a little bit. There was this one incident, episode 3 I believe, where Kitty kind of just told everybody in their science classroom, chemistry classroom, that Minho was this poopy baby from this commercial, and Minho didn't want that secret out. But the thing is, that secret had nothing to do with Kitty herself. Kitty kind of weaponized that secret against Minho when he was basically annoying her.
If Kitty was as good of a person as they wanted us to establish her as,
you would know that it's a universal courtesy that you wouldn't share anyone's secrets, especially secrets that don't have nothing to do with you. And just because this secret was shared with you, it doesn't give you the right to basically shove that in other people's faces.
You are just so likable and sincere. It's annoying. And
you're so much like your mother. She never backed down when she believed in something.
Your mother is as kind and loyal as she seems. You do have her essence.
But basically just to make Kitty feel like this baby sister that needs to be looked after all the time, and how she can get away with most things without much of a consequence, because basically she just doesn't know what she's doing. And I think that's where people kind of turned off by Kitty, because she has no boundary of maturity. And even if she has that boundary, it's so short-lived. And I'm kind of talking about the times where Kitty stands up for herself, or she stands up for Yuri or some other person. It's hard to take Kitty serious as a character because most of the time she acts like a sidekick with a cookie-cutter personality, and it's hard to see her as the main character because there is no real meaning or motif underlying her character. Honestly, there are some moments in XO Kitty where I can applaud them for capturing the teenage essence, accurately portray an average teenage girl's living experience and how super awkward and they don't know how to fit in. But Kitty is the only one experiencing a lot of these awkward and humiliating moments. Basically, it just shows that they're trying to push out like, oh my god, she is just a girl. She's just living her life. Every embarrassing moment Kitty is given kind of is no purpose to them other than the fact that we cannot take Kitty seriously as a character or see her as a strong enough protagonist. Do I think Kitty is a good character? Or do I think she's a good person? I do not think so. I don't think Kitty is a good person just because of all her shortcomings as a character, and they continue to persist and she never really learns from them. So I don't think she's a good character, but I think that there is a point where she could develop and where she could mature. And I think the only time they do show her maturation was when Kitty was about to leave and she kind of just says, "Yuri, I'm leaving, but I never knew much about love. I thought I knew everything about love until I met you." Like, slow your roll there, princess. I think Kitty is self-centered. I think a lot of the times when Kitty does open her mouth and talk, it's mostly about her or Alex, or Day, or Yuri, or the necklace. Like, even after Kitty was proved to be irrelevant to the main storyline, when Kitty revealed that Alex wasn't her brother, she was kind of like clinging on to Alex so desperately because he was the connection to her mother that she was looking for. And now that he basically isn't that, I think that the last 2 episodes after the camping episode, she should have been looking for ways to connect with her mom in other ways that we get to learn as well. But she didn't. Kitty kind of just like doesn't really change throughout the series, and I think that's what made people more upset, was that Kitty never had the chance to change, and when she did, she kind of wasted that opportunity. She continuously stayed the same, and it kind of just made her a boring character. I'm gonna take this in the matchmaker's point of view. Matchmaking, you match 2 people based on compatibility, and Kitty's logic is kind of like, oh my god, you yawned, and then he yawned, and then like you guys yawned because you were looking at each other, and now you're in love. Like, it's kind of elementary school knowledge. I had like my own issues with it because, number one, there is a psychology to love, and it would have been really interesting to see that Kitty was interested in psychology, and more specifically like the kind of scientific basis behind it. That was basically it. If you guys enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. I don't know if I'm gonna make any more. If you guys enjoyed, bye. Oh, my name is Gwynette. Bye.